Hey guys, it's Melody, and today we're going to be talking about productivity, and we're going to divide it into two categories because whenever I think of productivity, I think of it in two. And the first category is energy level. So we're going to talk about ways to guard energy level, and the second category is methodology in getting to start something. So we're going to talk about just starting something and also energy level. Energy level needs to be guarded because if you don't have energy, you're not going to be getting a lot of stuff done. So energy needs to be guarded by having a clear schedule, as succinct but as clear as possible, as specific as possible. So when you're writing things down, make sure you are very specific. And for instance, if you have a big project you're working on, make sure you divide it into multiple parts. Don't just put one big project. You're never going to get to that to do. And also, when you have to call somebody, what I like to do is I like to put call doctor and then put the phone number of the doctor next to it. Even if it's in my phone, I put it next to the to-do because I have zero hesitation. I'm as specific as I can be because when you're specific, that causes zero hesitation. You want to stick to the things you're good at, for instance, and save the things you don't do regularly for the end so it's not getting in the way of your momentum. And you also want to be very specific so that everything is as clear as possible. And the very next thing is you want to make sure your environment is conducive towards productivity. So there is a quote that says, you only grow according to the size of your environment. So if you keep, for instance, someone in a cage, they're only going to grow as big as the cage because you can't grow any bigger than that. So you want to have a very orderly environment. You also want to have an environment that challenges you and an environment that is not emotionally draining. So there are many ways that an environment can be emotionally draining, but let's talk about some obvious ones. Music that is emotionally charged, movies where the character you've been following the whole movie ends up getting killed at the very end. Life already has enough heartbreak. You don't need to be simulating heartbreak for yourself. Now, if that's your thing, that's your thing, but I'm just saying that be very aware if things are emotionally draining for you. And also when it comes to relationships with family members or other things like that, if you're living with people that are emotionally charged, communication is good. Having courage is good. For a lot of my life, I was just too shy to ever say what was on my mind, or I just wanted to be diplomatic, and then that you create kind of your own cell block because you're not stepping outside of it and nobody really knows where you're at or also who you really are. So have the courage to say what needs to be said and to say it as tactfully as you can. And so environment is very important because if you can exert control on your external world, you have more confidence to be able to tackle the bigger problems. So if your external world has no system of order, you're not going to bed at a specific time, or things are left out, everything's in disarray, then it's going to be a lot harder to be organized internally or organized in your personal life, for instance, because these things aren't compartmentalized, they bleed into everything else. So you want to develop little habits, which is the external world is the easy world to tackle, right? It's not the important part, but it's the easiest part, and it's the part that people pay the most attention to. So tackle your external world first, and then you will have the confidence to go after the bigger things because you can believe in yourself. And the very next thing is to make sure you're not taking part in habits or to minimize the habits that are wearing at your energy levels. Things like sugar or fat, saturated fat, those things take away energy. Addictions, obviously, social media, shopping. There's so many addictions that you can have, alcohol, and the more things like addictions and sugar and fat and melatonin that are weighing on that level, the less you're going to feel elated when something good happens. So you got to dial back some of the bad stuff so that you can feel stuff. For instance, if you're always on social media, when you get a ding, it's not going to mean that much because you're always on social media. So if you dial things back, it increases the pleasure of each individual thing, but also increases your pleasure in life in general. The very next thing is to replace those bad habits with good habits because you're going to have a hole, obviously. If you take some of these bad habits out, there's going to be a hole. So add in smoothies, for instance, taco bowls. Taco bowls have so many good things for you, or a berry smoothie. Get some sunshine, exercise after dinner, add some things, hang out with people. So we're going to get onto the methodology. Make sure you've written down what you want to do, your direction, the direction you're trying to go. When you are in the day-to-day mode, you want to be specific because you're on the micro level. But when you're thinking about the macro level, you want to zoom out and see the reasons why you're doing things and make sure you're doing things that you're really passionate about. So some people are passionate about their children and their family. So the things that they do, like cooking and cleaning, those are things that serve that passion. And for me, the things that I do because I want to improve myself. I want to be able to see things from other perspectives. So I want to do things that other people would do, like travel. I do that because I want to improve myself and because I want to understand. So those are my passions, but your passions might be different than that. So follow your passions. The next thing is perfectionism. It's probably the biggest hurdle to progress because the more perfectionist you are, the more you're going to hesitate because you want to get everything just right. You're going to measure something and then you're going to install that hook and it's going to be just a little bit off. It's not going to be perfectly straight and then it's going to drive you up the wall. But it doesn't matter. Nobody notices and you don't even notice. A lot of people that are organized are perfectionists. That's the downside of organization, is if you're really good at it, chances are you're a perfectionist. And so you have to be aware of that inside. Be more at peace with how things are. There is always imperfection in things in reality, and that's okay. Nothing is ever as good as we can imagine it. We'll not start many things because we want it to be just right, and that will inhibit growth. So we want to expand our environment and expand our knowledge. For instance, just schedule in 30 minutes of reading in a day and chances are you'll go over that, but it's just starting and just read quickly. Don't underline everything, highlight everything, be ultra perfectionistic about getting everything there is to get out of the book and reading over the chapter because you didn't get it the first time. Just go through it cleanly and chances are it will become very enjoyable and you'll make a lot of progress. You won't stop reading after the 30 minutes expires. My very last point is to just do things. If you need to buy something, don't look into things so deeply. Just rise to the occasion. Just do it. And if you want to learn something, sign up for the class and just do it. Because a lot of times, if you're anything like me, you might overthink things and then you're either going to become too perfectionistic or you'll talk yourself out of it. And you won't get the knowledge and you won't get the confidence from being able to rise to the occasion. We have a track record of being able to rise to the occasion and keeping our hands busy and doing things to the best of our ability. We're going to get through this. And if you're one of those people that just does things all the time and you don't think about things first, you can err on the side of caution. You can err on the side of research and also delineating things more clearly. But if you are anything like me and you overthink things, there comes a time where you just gotta do it. About 3 years ago, I just decided to do things. I've been living safe for 5 years and not getting much done because I was just in a cocoon of sorts. But then you don't grow because you're in a cell of sorts that you make for yourself. I set my mind to something, I wake up in the morning and I install it. Now again, if you err on the side of always doing things and not thinking about things first, then this is obviously, you have to go the other direction because you want to have some direction to your doing. But if you're always thinking about things, get a general direction and then throw yourself out there. You will get busted up, but that's a part of living, you know. Setbacks are a part of living, but there will always be setbacks and there will always be reasons why we should have stayed inside, for instance. But that's okay. You know, those parts are part and parcel. You get so much more for the risk than you lose. So decluttering can be frightening because you're going to declutter and you might declutter something that means a lot to you, but you're going to gain so much more by decluttering. You might lose 2 things, but you've decluttered thousands of things, so it's worth it. And the same thing with risk taking. You're going to take some losses. There will be setbacks, but that shouldn't deter you from rising again. Anyway, because that is a part of living and that is a part of being courageous. I hope you guys are having a very pleasant Sunday wherever you guys are at, and I will see you guys in the next minimalist video.